Okay, the board of the Wolf City Council regular meeting Tuesday, November 1st, at 7 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bennett,
Here.
Councilor Harris,
Here.
Councilor Stratus,
I'm here.
Councilor Weathers,
Here.
and Councilor Murray.
One, and all in attendance. Stand and pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a short agenda tonight. Anybody see actions to take on this? They want to take out, add to. Okay. We have a consent agenda. No public comments. I don't believe you have anything online. Anybody want to say anything?
Does anybody joining us via Zoom wish to make any statement during the public comment section? I'm not hearing any, Mr. Mayor.
We'll move on from that. Council comments. No staff report, public hearing, old business. Okay, we're right down to new business. Item number 1. On page 3 of the packet. Having to do with Crestview Estates. Mr. Cobb, you want to introduce that?
Mr. Mayor, I'll turn this over to Public Works Director Max Baker.
Good morning or good afternoon, Mayor Bennett and Council. Can you guys hear me fine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you have in front of you is some requested quotes to install a storm line, French style storm line in the Crestview Estate subdivision. This was originally approved in the construction plans when the subdivision went in and it never got installed. So upon our final inspection to, accept the subdivision, we noticed this wasn't put in. So we're in a situation now where we need to get it in. It's already started to rain. This specifically is the drainage to protect lot 12. So yeah, so what you have is some quotes to install this, about 145 feet in total. It will tie into the existing storm system that was put in with the subdivision. Yeah, so if you have any questions, I can answer them.
For clarification, I did contact a representative from the McDougal brothers. They said they are willing to send us a check to prepay for this. And once that is on the way, I will, if this is approved tonight, authorize the contractor to get started.
Any questions?
As long as we get the money first.
Yeah, we want to have this on. Palms to the back. Vincent check.
Go ahead.
The other thing I wondered about is the delivery of the rock, and that was gonna be provided by McDougal, but only to Riverbend.
Correct.
So do we know what that value is to kind of make these kind of,
Around $6,000.
rocks cheap at the home? Was just curious what difference that made, because it's not really apples and apples, looking at the 3 bids.
Probably more carrying the truckloads out. With the truck driver.
I believe there was just one. I believe there was one quote that itemized the gravel. That was for portable rock production at $5,780.
So, and McDougal is providing that.
Correct.
Not to the other 2 bidders.
For clarification, McDougal was originally going to do this work themselves. And the property owner stated that they weren't going to allow them or any representative on their property. So this is the original McDougal quote. It's just in the city of Lowell's name. As for the value of the rock, the best estimate I have right here is with portable rock production at 5780.
Small point with, if they're not gonna allow anything to the city on, is the gravel going to be provided to, Riverbend and are Riverbend going to go and pick up the gravel from, Big Google or Big Google's trucks going to come up there and what have?
Probably coming from River Bend's quarry.
Do you know the answer to that, Max?
I didn't hear the question very well. I can't hear Don very well. He was asking about,
I'm just asking, since, the new owners of that land isn't gonna let McDougal's representatives on there. How the gravel is gonna get there, is the gravel gonna be delivered to Riverbend, or Riverbend goes by and pick it up from McDougal? Use Riverbend's truck, or they go, or is McDougal going to try to deliver it?
that I honestly don't know, Don. When we were quotes, we just requested them, showed the plans and left it everybody the same. Riverbend did have the first original quote, as the CA stated. They originally were going to be hired by the McDougal's, and the McDougal's offered to provide the rock for them for that project, and I don't know any of the details of that. I'm assuming it would be the McDougal's rock, since they would be the ones providing it.
The Lookout Point, LLC, are they in agreement with what Elvis has written then?
I contacted them whenever we received the quotes and informed them of our plans and gave them a deadline of Wednesday at noon, and I haven't heard any objections.
We'll take it, that's a yes. Okay. Good. Other questions or thoughts? Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve bid number RBC 2022-389 by Riverbend Construction in the amount of $11,320 and to authorize the city administrator to sign.
Okay, a motion by Gail, seconded by Jimmy for the Crestview Estates. Further discussions, questions, thoughts? All those in favor of motion to approve bid number RBC 2022-389 by Riverbend Construction in the amount of $11,340 and to authorize the city administrator to sign, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Very good. On to page 17 now.
Max, could you stay on for the next one?
Yep.
And that has to do with S and F and a sewer line, they're heading on that. Just quick comment, please.
I'm asking for approval tonight for a survey proposal from S&F Land Services. This is to record the sewer easement that's running across the north part of 205 East Main Street. We worked with S&F Land Services before and obtained their services through a competitive process. Based on our procurement code, we are permitted to award a contract to them for this project. Since it is a personal services contract with a continuation of work by a contractor who performed preliminary studies under a prior contract. Max, do you have anything to add?
Any questions?
I don't know the answer or.
I believe Max said he didn't.
Any questions of Ms. Donald and Max? We have a motion.
I'll move to approve the October 11, 2022 additional professional survey services proposal from S&F Land Services in the amount of $5,295 and to authorize the city administrators.
Got a second? Okay, Bill made the motion, and Jimmy seconded. To approve the contract. We have other discussions, questions. All those in favor of a motion to approve the October 11, 2022 additional professional services proposal from S and F Land Services, amount of $5,295 to authorize the city administrator to sign. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Back down. Page 22 now. Sunset Hills subdivision. Mr. Conley.
I'm asking for council approval tonight for an amendment to our agreement for improvements with the Bay and Investment Group. That was approved at the council meeting on February 15th, 2022. This amendment would give the developer 2 years to install public improvements on 2 lots. They're dealing with wetland issues. The staff and our consultants recommended having this amendment to give the developer a set timeline to get those improvements in place. That way it would eliminate any lack of clarity over whenever we would be able to file a claim on the bond to do those improvements ourselves. The developer has reviewed the amendment and they're agreeable with the terms.
Can they sell the lots before those corrections are made to those 2 lots? I know they have like 16, so I know they can sell, it sounds like they can sell the other 14, but those 2 lots that have the
That would fall under section 3 of the agreement for improvements in your packet.
Thought they had to do the wetlands.
So before we can issue building permits, they have to do the street extension, curbs, gutters, sidewalks. They have to install the water service mains, the fire hydrants. And they have to install sewer service, stormwater. Pretty much they have to install all of the improvements before we can issue building permits, and that's in our development agreement with them.
Doesn't it say in section 4 that, if they've got, there's some caveats to that, where they've got construction plans for the required improvements to be submitted and approved by the city, and the surety bond, and the agreed upon by the city developer. That then they can. It's like section 4 gives them some wiggle for that.
Yes. Yeah,
I mean, it pulls them pretty close to completion with the requirements in section 4. It's not like it's just a pass.
it does, and the key point there is 4B, where they're required to provide the surety bond, and they've done that. They gave me the bond last week, and our engineer reviewed the costs to make sure it was reasonable.
So it sounds like there is a way you can consolidate the loss without completing the student problem.
Could or could not,
Good.
So they could,
but this isn't gonna be recorded to run the property, right? So how do we enforce it then on that? Because the new.
We enforce it with the bond. We file it, if they don't follow through with installing their improvements, we file a claim on the bond and do it so.
Even if they sold the property
Yes,
2 years around.
yes. And this development agreement remains in place until we officially accept the improvements. So Bayhead is going to be subject to this agreement, even if all the property is sold, until we officially accept the agreements, and at that point, they can cancel the bond. So that's in,
Section 2 of the first. Amendment.
yeah, section 2. So all work, punch list items are done. We performed the final inspection. They've submitted as-built drawings, they've submitted construction cost tallies, and then the council formally votes to accept the improvements at that point. But this agreement is done. They can cancel the bond.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve amendment number one to the agreement for improvements with Bay and Investment Group LLC, authorizing the to sign.
Second.
Motion by Gail, second by Tim. Any other thoughts, questions? Okay. All those in favor of motion to approve amendment number one of the agreement for the improvement for Bayham Investment Group LLC and to authorize the mayor to sign, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's covered. Okay. Any other business from anybody?
I was approached by a constituent on D Street regarding two projects on Moss Street. Currently a multifamily dwelling, all of them was proposed building. And they expressed some concerns over drainage issues. They feel that, and this has been a kind of a general felt feeling by people that live on D Street, that after the Carroll Street development, the stormwater and runoff issues were kind of not really mitigated in the Carroll Street development. So when they did Carroll Street, they basically raised Carroll Street up. At the back of D Street, it used to drop off into a field. There was 3 seasonal creeks that ran through that field. They would come down to the end. One of them is still a creek that runs at the end of 4th Street, basically 5th Street. It still exists, but the other 2 were basically buried in that project. When they did the fill, they didn't put a storm drain along the edge of that drop that occurred there. They just raised the ground elevation, and then they put all of the roof drains from the development just into that ground level above all of our properties on the east side of D Street. This constituent lives on the west side of D Street, and the downhill side essentially of D Street, adjacent to Moss and these developments. After the Carroll Street development, most people on D Street noticed a significant increase in groundwater level on properties and issues surrounding that. A lot of people have installed French drains. I've got 7 French drains across my property. And my property is going dry before the French Street development. Their concern is that that if thought isn't put into making sure that storm runoff from pavement part of the projects and roof drains isn't sent further towards Moss Street, that it will essentially back up and form and exacerbate the problem that they're seeing already. And so they would like to see the city council push for anything we can in those developments to make sure the gradient or drain pipes run out. And I think we would probably do that anyway, because I believe there's probably a storm drain running down Moss Street that we would probably require these people to look into, is my guess. I'm not positive that we may maximum to give me some information on that. But they would just like to make sure that their thoughts were heard and any proposed developments that occur there, because they foresee, pretty large parking lots if it's a multi-family dwelling, but they're all Dollar General store for the parking areas, and also the roof areas are probably be pretty significant. So if the things are pushed back to the east, that it could cause some pretty increase the problem they've already had even worse. So they just wanted that to be passed on to the city council.
I appreciate that comment. I have just a couple of thoughts that might be able to communicate with the constituent to help them out. I haven't seen the final packet and staff report on the application yet. They do, one of the criteria that they have to meet has to do with storm. And That's reviewed by our engineer. They have engineers that put together, the state Department of Transportation reviews it to make sure it doesn't mess with any road related stuff. I would, and the planning commission has to make a determination that the information that they received about stormwater and everything else is sufficient. I would encourage your constituent to come to the November 16th meeting and voice their concerns. That's the time to do it. And at the meeting, they can also have opportunity to ask questions about that and review the packet, the information in the packet. That's when we make the meetings.
Okay.
November 16th is the date to voice those concerns. If they don't show up, then
Yeah, I'll be out of town working, that's another week going back and that's working, so I won't be here to represent them. They're looking at that, so I'll pass that on to them. If they have, and I'm probably sure they talk to a couple of their neighbors as well, so any of them want to come. And get information and have their voices heard that we get out.
they're welcome to call me or email me if they have any questions.
In fact, they can email their comments to be read to the record
Yes,
if they can't show up. So,
Okay,
yes.
I will do that. If there's several of them, keep one right away. That way we get it on there.
Maureen, did you have something?
Yes, it's
That's what I was gonna say, rather than just, I mean, obviously, we came for you, the history's good to have, just no matter what, so. Can it still, when it comes to you through this forum, can that still be passed on? I mean, I get testimony and all of that, but if this is knowledge that might not be known by others, especially our engineer and others, does that get passed on when we bring these things to council, or do you have to come to or present the testimony to have that information be acknowledged? Just a process question.
I can broach this conversation definitely with our public works and engineer tomorrow before the meeting to verify that the information in their submittal addresses these concerns, and then our contract planner is aware of it whenever he drafts these findings, so I can definitely take this to our team.
It just might save some trouble. We don't want to go awry and cost us money in the long run, because it was an old project. I don't know when D Street went in, but
Yeah,
Carol was in.
just so everybody's tracking this, so the city administrator there, time is the person who developed the Carroll Street development. So. The person who would approve permits or process permits and approve submittals is the very person who's developing the project. They own the land and develop. So.
Well, on any property, aren't you responsible for your runoff?
Yeah, but this has been a while. It's
Yeah, so the Carroll Street development came in the late 90s, early
Right.
2000s.
Yeah, but I've been for
It's fair.
they're pending.
Those
I mean,
houses are about 20 to
comparatively.
22 years old.
But we have a lot of things like that come up, and it's like, well, gee, if somebody had to talk to somebody that was here in those days, it could save us a lot of grief. That's all I'm trying to say, because we don't have. In reading some of the other communications you sent us this week. That's why I'm a little slightly bruised about that.
That's a great suggestion. I'll broach this in my team meeting before planning commission. And your constituent is going to know better than anybody else,
So it'd still be good.
I would really encourage him.
That'll just.
Still not from the engineer.
Yes.
Well, that way it really gets caught. I mean, it doesn't get forgotten.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Something comes up and the person can't show up and doesn't have
Well, or even.
internet and, and then it goes by the way, and then we're sitting here 20 years later, not me, but. And then we say, oh, they did that, what idiots, didn't they know? I don't want to be on the tail end of it. Maybe next story.
We have enough of those comments.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank
I'll
you.
pass it.
Any other topics? Before we adjourn. In that case, we're adjourned at 7:26.
You're paid, Don.
I'm just-
Jeremy's thrilled.
We've teased Jimmy about his first couple of meetings, but I think this one beats those.
Welcome back.